When I was in college, I got in a really bad car accident. The car was totaled, but thankfully my friend and I were both totally fine. But that cold winter night somewhere in Ohio, I had to call my parents and I had to tell them what happened. And you all know, what is the first thing you're supposed to say to your parents when they answer that middle of the night call? Are you thinking it? Yeah, you say, "Mom, Dad, I want you to know I'm okay." Why? Why don't you lead with, "Mom, Dad, you need to know there was a car accident"? Well, it's because there is critical information that they need to know first. And that information will lead them to a more calm, clear, and helpful conversation. Sometimes we have to share hard information, and that can make us feel really nervous about having that conversation. But what if there was a way for us to shape it so that regardless of the information, the experience is good? The experience doesn't harm anyone. What does that look like? And how do you do it? That is what we are going to get into today. And make sure you stick around till the very end of this episode today because I have a specific way I can help you with this beyond this episode. I think a lot of the stress we feel before certain work conversations comes from worrying about how the other person will react. And the truth is, we can't control their response. And that uncertainty can make us feel like this whole thing is a total crapshoot. But here's the thing, most leaders, they don't fail because of the message itself. They fail because of how the message was delivered. So if I had called my parents that night and said, "Mom, Dad, we got into a car accident and the car is totaled," I would have successfully driven them into an emotional state that makes it hard for them to hear the more important message, which is what? We're fine. It's the same with other situations. So imagine a doctor comes in after your test results and says, "Well, your numbers are an 11, which is the level for one in every 200 women your age." Well, my first thought is it's a freak out, right? Until he adds, "Oh, that's actually normal and we're not worried." Okay. Whew. Suddenly I can breathe. I've stopped writing goodbye letters to my family and friends in my head. But imagine if he led with, "Good news, your numbers are in the normal range, and 11 is pretty typical for one in every 200 women your age." Well, that changes everything. Now, I'm not saying that you always lead with something good, but what I am saying is that the experience for the person receiving the message is shaped by two things: clarity and empathy. So let's start with clarity. Often, when we think about clarity in a conversation, we focus on the facts that we want to deliver, right? We write them down, we rehearse them in the shower, and then we confidently deliver them like we're reading a grocery list, thinking, well, they have all the information. Now they'll get it. But here's the thing, a list of facts doesn't automatically create an understanding. So let's run with my grocery list example. I am a meal planner. I plan my meals, I make a list, I buy the ingredients. So, yes, I am buying these items this week. Fact. But if I were just to read off the list to my husband, "Here's all the things I am buying this week," that would really mean nothing to him. But if I said, "Hey, babe, here are the meals that we plan to eat this week," suddenly my list makes sense. Context matters. The point is, we have to ask ourselves, what do we want them to walk away knowing? Not just what information do we want to share. So let's talk about clarity in this way with a more tough example, like letting someone go. So sometimes it's easy to accidentally muddy the message by including too much information or even conflicting information in an attempt to give them all the information. So here's an example of a way this is unclear. "Hey, I wanted to talk to you. I've noticed performance issues over the past few months, and also with the budget being tight, I'm having to make cuts. We've tried coaching you in different areas. There have been multiple missed deadlines. There have been client complaints. But because of all of this, I have to let you go." See the problem? This person is left wondering, is this about performance or is this about budget cuts? Conflicting messages like that, they just create confusion and defensiveness. So here's a clearer, more intentional version. Okay, we're gonna try again. "I wanna be upfront with you. We've made the decision to end your role here because your performance hasn't met the expectations we have discussed over the past several months. I know this is hard to hear. I want to make sure you have the support you need as you transition. And if you want, I can walk through the specific areas that we've talked about before." Boom. One clear takeaway. termination is due to performance, and it's paired with support. So this person understands the essential message. They feel seen, they're not drowning in unnecessary details. So this clarity concept works with positive news too. So imagine you're excited because you're introducing a new initiative to your team. A less clear version might sound like this. Hey, I wanted to talk about some really exciting changes coming next quarter. I've been reviewing the workflows and the client feedback. I've been thinking about metrics and our efficiency, and there are a bunch of new tools we're going to start using. There's a new software for some project management. There are updates to our CRM. We're going to start having weekly check-ins. We're just going to be thinking differently about goals, and we're going to add some training. I just really want us to improve productivity and collaboration, and I think a lot of good stuff is going to come from this as we move forward. So I think that is exciting. But if you're hearing this, you know how your team feels overwhelmed, right? Now, here's a version that starts with the clarity, with the key takeaway. I'm excited to share a new initiative I'm launching next quarter. The goal is to make it easier for everyone to track products and collaborate smoothly. So I'll be introducing a tool to centralize updates, and I'm going to provide training so everyone can get up to speed. And this change, it's going to help us stay aligned. It's going to help us save time and make everyone's work more visible. So the main thing I want you to walk away knowing is that this initiative is here to make your work easier and more effective. See how that sounded? So here's a simple exercise for you to use to help you figure out how you do this in your day-to-day conversations. You're going to ask yourself, what do I want them to walk away knowing? And you got to try to put it into one sentence. Okay, so here are some examples. I want them to walk away knowing I believe they can lead the client presentation on Thursday and that I'm here to help them prep slides or run through it if they want. Very clear. Here's another one. I want them to walk away knowing their draft newsletter has strong storytelling and that one area to improve is tightening up that subject line so that more people open it. Or finally, I want them to walk away knowing that I value their input on the team's workflow and that I'm committed to checking in regularly so that we're all on the same page. And once you have this key takeaway sentence, what you want them to walk away knowing, you can reverse engineer the conversation so that you're including the facts that support this takeaway and not extra things that confuse it. And here's something I notice that leaders do all the time. We make the mistake of thinking about how we want people to feel after the conversation instead of what we want them to know. And it sounds good in our heads, right? I want them to walk away feeling confident, or I want them to feel like they're doing a good job. But the truth is, you can't control someone's feelings. And when you make that the takeaway, you typically end up with a conversation that is fuzzy at best and definitely not helpful. So instead, you ask yourself, what do I want them to walk away knowing in one sentence? We can make the experience for our people one that is the least harmful by being clear and by being empathetic. So now on to empathy. Empathy is simply the ability to understand and share what someone else is feeling. It's not about fixing their feelings. It's not about taking responsibility for their emotions or their actions. It's just about saying, I see you. I get why you feel that way. And if you want to understand more about empathy in your leadership, I have a whole podcast episode on this. It's called Stop Offering Sympathy, Lead with Empathy Instead. And you can grab that link in the show notes. You know, some leaders struggle with no empathy, right? They're not empathetic, and that's a big problem. Others struggle with how exactly to express empathy in a way that's helpful. And here's what I mean. Empathy isn't apologizing for someone else's emotions or actions or making yourself feel responsible for them. That can actually make things way messier. So my youngest two, my 4 and my 6-year-old, both transitioned from a balance bike to a pedal bike this summer, which, by the way, this is a little bonus tip I'm going to slip in. If you are in the 2 to 4-year-old season with a kiddo, a balance bike, 100% the way to go. I typically don't like to give advice like this because people get really sensitive about parenting recommendations, but this one, I fully encourage the balance bike, no question about it. Both of my littles transitioned to a pedal bike in literally a day. Anyway, as you can imagine, transitioning to a pedal bike hasn't been perfect. My son took a fall, got a cut on his knee. He comes back into the house crying. And, empathy in that moment isn't about saying, oh no, this is all my fault. I should have been out there watching you closer, or rushing to get the Band-Aids, grabbing the ice pack, just trying to make the pain disappear right away. No, Empathy is kneeling down, looking at him right in the eye and saying, ouch, that really hurt, huh? I can see why you're upset. It's connecting to their experience without taking responsibility for the fact that he fell or trying to erase the hurt in just 1 second. Did I get him a Band-Aid? Yes. But fixing it doesn't have to be the first response. And in the workplace, fixing it might not even be appropriate at all. Empathy is always the right option. So here's the little rule I want you to remember because it's going to make your life a whole lot easier when you're trying to be empathetic. Here it is. Ready? Skip sorry, skip sunshine. Here's what I mean. Skip sorry. Anytime you catch yourself starting with, I'm sorry you feel, or I'm sorry this happened, stop. If you didn't cause the problem, that apology isn't actually helping. So instead, flip it to something simple and real, like, I see why this is frustrating. I hear that this feels overwhelming. I understand why you're upset. I see, I hear, I understand. You are validating the person's experience without taking on the responsibility for it. And that's exactly what empathy is. So next, skip sunshine. This is for the times when you're tempted to lead with a whole bunch of optimism, like saying, I know you can handle this, or it's going to be fine. So instead, acknowledge the real experience. Example, I know this might feel overwhelming. I see why this is stressful. Now, only after you've connected with empathy can you add on the support or the solutions. And I'm here to help you figure it out. And we'll take it one step at a time. So let's apply the skip the sorry and skip the sunshine rules to my examples from earlier. So letting someone go and introducing a new initiative. Instead of saying, I'm so sorry, we have to let you go. I feel terrible about it. Try, I know this is really hard. I want to support you in making this transition as smooth as possible, and I understand how painful this moment feels. Or instead of, I know you guys are up to the task. I know you can handle these changes. You can say, I know this feels like a lot, and that can be overwhelming. We're going to take it one step at a time, and I'll make sure everything is clear and manageable along the way because the outcome really will serve everyone here. Okay, do you hear that? Let's pull it all together. When you combine clarity and empathy, you create an experience that helps instead of harms, even when the actual message is really hard. So think back to those two examples we walked through. In the messy version of firing someone, I gave conflicting messages with budget reasons and performance reasons, and the result was confusion and hurt. But in the clearer version, the person walked away knowing exactly why their role was ending, and they knew I cared about supporting them in the transition. That's clarity and empathy, even in maybe one of the hardest things you could ever do as a leader. Or with the other example, the new initiative, when I listed every single tool and every single change all at once, it just overwhelmed the people. But when I led with the key takeaway, this initiative is here to make your work easier and more effective, the message lands. That's clarity plus empathy again. And do you remember how you're going to approach all this? You don't need to make it overly complicated. We can make it super easy. And it isn't something you have to keep overthinking. So here it is. It's two things. Well, kind of three hidden into. One, state what you want them to walk away with knowing in one sentence. And skip the sorry and the sunshine. One sentence, skip the sorry and the sunshine. And here's the benefit, friend. When you lead this way, people may not love the news. That's not what I'm saying. But they will trust you. They may not agree with every decision, but they will not walk away confused or doubting your motives because you will have been clear and you will have shown that you care for them. They'll know exactly where they stand, and they will feel seen in the process. So the takeaway for you as a leader is this: clarity and empathy don't just make smoother conversations, they make conversations safe. They build trust, and they make sure that when people leave the conversation, even with the hard news, they don't leave with unnecessary harm on top of it. If you remember, at the top of the episode, I told you got to stick around to the end for a specific way I can help you. So I'm going to ask you this question. Would you be interested in working with me to transform every conversation into fuel for your team's success, even the hard ones? If the answer is yes, here is what I want you to do. I want you to open up your email app, okay? Go ahead, do it right now. Pull out your phone, open up your email app, open up a new message, and put my email in the address line. Kara, K-A-R-A, @karalist.co. Then you're just going to write this for the title: I am interested. And you can leave me a little note if you want to. You don't even have to. I'm going to respond to you and learn more about you and your work and see if I can offer you a quick win right there in your inbox. So you got it, Kara@karalist.co. Title your email, I am interested. And then we can chat. Does that sound good? Okay, friend. Clarity and empathy. You cannot control how someone reacts, but you can control how they experience the conversation. And the difference between those two is the difference between chaos and kindness. And I know that this can be so hard. I know that you already have so much on your plate. And at the same time, I fully believe this kind of leadership can be what makes your work truly meaningful to you and truly meaningful to those around you. So keep doing it. Keep working hard and know that I am cheering you on. So I will talk to you next week or in your inbox before then. Bye, friend.